preservation isn't a top-down activity. This is something you can get involved in your community. You don't need a big fancy ordinance or a big fancy organization. Just look around you. I'm always getting calls from people, how can we save this building? Like, well, if you'd come to me a year ago, I could help you, but now the bulldozer's at the door. I can't help you. So come to me sooner. Look around you. Look at that historic school that's been sitting empty for 20 years or 30 years, but still has good bones, as we say, and work to preserve it now. Work to ensure it's not going to be demoed in the middle of the night, or that you aren't aware of coming plans for it. Attend your city council meetings. Organize people in your community to save a building. We have the resources to help you do that. And there are even things like Incremental Development Alliance, which helps people become small-scale developers. So if you or a group of your friends want to get together and restore a historic building in your town to prevent it from demolition, they have the tools to help you do that. So I think don't wait, be proactive, figure out what's important to you and to your lifestyle and the type of community that you want to live in, and then act on it to the best of your ability. If that only means that, you can send us a check, we're happy to do that because, we need that too. If it means you can be more proactive by buying and restoring a historic house, that's awesome too. And we will try to help you however we can.
That was today's guest, Miss Brenda Rigdon, Executive Director of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, offering some insightful advice on how residents can help preserve the rich cultural and historical heritage of Michigan, one historic location at a time. Stick around, there's much more to come in this episode of Preservation Oaks. This is Sean Thomas Radcliff. Welcome to another episode of Preservation Oaks. In this series, we introduce you to professionals from museums, cultural, genealogical, and historical societies across the United States. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in and welcome to Season 4 of Preservation Oaks. This is the first episode of Season 4, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Ms. Brenda Rigdon, Executive Director of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. Since 1981, they've been Michigan's go-to group for preserving the state's cool cultural and architectural heritage. They've racked up numerous awards for their work in legislation, training, and advocacy. Stuff that really makes a difference. By the end of this episode, you'll definitely want to join their mission to keep Michigan's history alive and kicking. Hey, I'm Sean Radcliff, coming to you from Salt Lake City, and this is Preservation Oaks, the original talk program on MicroStream Radio, where we dive into the world of museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical societies, and history-focused media creators across the United States. You can catch us on all the major podcast platforms, plus Rumble, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. So wherever you're listening, we appreciate every like, comment, follow, or subscribe. A big thanks to everybody spreading the word about our show. Your support is what keeps us going and helps shine a light on the amazing heroes of Preservation Oaks. Unlike most podcasts, we don't ask for donations. We're here because we love showcasing the awesome work of organizations preserving our history. These folks are the real heroes, and by sharing our program, you're joining the mission to support them. So keep spreading the word, support your local society or museum, and let's make sure our history sticks around for future generations. Thanks for being a part of the journey. All right, that being said, let's get this show snapping. Now here's a short profile of today's guest. Ms. Brenda Rigdon is an experienced architect with a passion for bringing history back to life. With 26 years under her belt in historic preservation and adaptive reuse, she's taken on some seriously cool projects, from National Park Service historic structure reports to National Register nominations and historic tax credit applications. In 2017, Ms. Rigdon founded Black Raven Architects, and she's been making waves ever since. Her first project as a preservation consultant was restoring Challoner and Company, a tobacco shop in downtown Adrian dating back to 1874. This wasn't just a typical restoration, though. Challoner's cigar house became a swanky cigar lounge that even got a feature in Cigar Aficionado magazine. She also helped transform a historic church in Ypsilanti into a buzzing performance and event space, and revamped old commercial buildings in downtown Jackson into modern residential units. As a developer, she partners with local communities to breathe new life into vacant historic buildings, collaborating with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and other organizations to make things happen. With a Bachelor of Fine Arts and a Master of Architecture from the University of Michigan, Ms. Rigdon is also a certified housing development financing professional and a big advocate for affordable housing. She's a member of several professional organizations, including the Community and Economic Development Association and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Beyond her professional life, Ms. Rigdon has dedicated time to volunteer work, serving on advisory boards and historic commissions. She knows the ins and outs of working with clients, consultants, and contractors, and is all about finding the best design solutions for projects big and small. She's well versed in the challenges facing the preservation field and is committed to making a difference. All right. Welcome to the program, Brenda.
Thank you, Sean. I'm pleased to be here.
Hey, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary.
Thank you. It's been a really exciting year. We've got a lot done.
Fantastic. Hey, I got to tell you that the Michigan Historic Preservation Network is a really cool organization. You guys have so many resources and so much going on. It took me a while to get my head around everything, and I still haven't. So forgive me if I go off in different directions on this interview, but I tell you, you just got so much going on. It's great that you're helping people across Michigan.
Thank you.
Now, the building your organization uses as its headquarters is itself a historic and preserved building on César Chávez Avenue in Lansing. Is that right?
Yes, the Thelma Joyce Osteen Comfort Station, which was built between 1914 and 1915, is a historic building in Lansing's Old Town Historic District. The Comfort Station served as North Lansing's stop on the interurban train system. We purchased and rehabbed this long vacant building for use as our headquarters and moved in February of 2013. We have the second floor office space, and we lease out the first floor space.
Wow.
Private business.
I saw a picture on the web of a train coming through between your building and the building next door, and it was just coming through, and there was like, I don't know, maybe 6 feet of space between the train and your building. And I'm thinking, holy cow, you're sitting in your office and this train's rumbling through. That's got to be cool.
Yes, that actually still happens about once a month. It's a train. I think it does scrap metal along that track to a recycling place on the end. I have not been there when it was happening yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. It's really cool. Great picture, too. Now, does your organization go into public schools to help school children understand preservation topics?
Well, from 2006 to 2011, we taught traditional building trades through a partnership among Detroit's A. Philip Randolph Career and Technical Center and the Detroit Historic District Advisory Board, with early funding through a grant from the State Historic Preservation Office. This program allowed high school students to gain hands-on experience in the trades, window and brick restoration, plaster, carpentry, etc. We hope to revise the programs in Detroit and other communities throughout the state as funding becomes available. I frequently participate in school career fairs to talk about preservation as an architect and to promote building trades careers. We also participate in events like Archaeology Day at the Michigan History Center, where we bring activities for children like drawings of buildings that can be colored, cut out, and then folded up into historic buildings.
Yeah, you were telling me you have archaeologists on staff there.
And they have the best stories.
Fantastic. Do people volunteer with your organization?
Yes, we do. Mostly during our various fundraising events and our annual conference. Members of our organization come in and we'll run we have a used bookstore, a marketplace with logoed aprons and coffee mugs and other things that we sell to raise money. And they also volunteer in both planning the events and the actual running of the events, making sure people get their registration, making sure people find their seats, anything that goes with sort of a big fundraiser event like that.
Oh, very cool. You have your fundraisers at a hall or something?
Yes. So on October 20th of this year, we will be having our fall benefit at the Adrian Armory, which is my hometown, and a building I worked on as an architect. So I'm very pleased for that. So we'll be having about 150 people come to Adrian for that. And then in the spring, we have our annual conference, which is about 4 days of traditional academic sort of style conference, but also just people who are interested in preservation and friends of the preservation movement, people from historic societies, other groups like that come together. And next year, it will be in Sault Ste. Marie.
So you're working hard to get ready for that.
Oh, yes. It's already, we start planning the conference about 2 weeks after the last one ends. So it's a year-round thing.
Wow. Cool. Now, can you provide us with an overview of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network's mission and significance?
So the short answer to that is the Michigan Historic Preservation Network supports the sustainability and economic vitality of Michigan's historic places through advocacy, education, and direct action. We are the largest membership organization in the state dedicated to recognizing and preserving Michigan's architectural and cultural properties and advocating for their continued use for creative adaptive reuse. We work closely with the State Historic Preservation Office and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on preservation projects, especially on downtown revitalization. We work with groups including the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Preservation Action, and Partners for Sacred Places. In most years, more than half of Michigan's 83 counties receive some form of assistance from the network.
Wow, very cool. Now, do you have a lot of historical societies as members?
We do have some societies that are members in and of themselves. We have many members of societies that are members of our organization also. And we interact with a lot of these groups, both by being on the boards of other organizations like the Cultural Advocacy Network and through our work with our conference. And we present at each other's conferences. So there's a lot of interaction between us and other groups.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know how closely you work with historical societies across the state.
We will answer questions for anybody. So if an organization comes to us and says, hey, we've got this thing, how can you help us? Then we'll say, sure, let's see what we can do.
Oh, fantastic. Now, can you discuss the history and goals of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network?
So on May 30th, 1981, members of the Detroit Historic District Commission and fellow commissioners from around Michigan held the first meeting of what eventually became the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. Their goals were to provide commissioner education, serve as an information clearinghouse, a lobby for stronger state enabling legislation for historic district ordinances, and market a compelling preservation message. Staff from Michigan State Historic Preservation Office were also on hand, establishing from the start our working relationship. Their initial goals were strengthening the Public Act 169, which established the creation of historic districts, getting a state-level tax incentive program in place, which they did in 1999. A 25% state investment tax credit was signed into law by Governor John Engler to benefit owners in restoring historic properties in locally designated historic districts. That tax incentive would leverage $1.2 $1.53 billion in direct residential and commercial investment in our state's historic properties between 1999 and 2011. In early 2009, we succeeded in improving the program so the commercial credits could be syndicated, allowing investors and developers to raise capital upfront and sign tax credits. Unfortunately, that credit was discontinued under Governor Rick Snyder, and a substantially reduced credit was reinstated in 2021. So we've done very well with our initial goals of tax credit coming back, expanding it, losing it, coming back. And that's still passing an expansion of the tax credit is still one of our primary goals today.
Cool. You're working at the state level, you're working at the local level, you're working at the federal level too, right?
Correct.
Wow.
Oh, yes, we are partners with the National Trust on a number of projects. Most recently, we received a grant from them to do a 1,000 building survey in Detroit of the Russell Wood Sullivan historic neighborhood. And that was a Black middle-class neighborhood that was home to the Supremes and many other Motown stars and many prominent African Americans of that time. So we're pretty excited about that.
That is very cool. Way to preserve. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, that means a lot to so many people. Now, can you please highlight the current key initiatives of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, including programs, advocacy, education, and direct action?
Mm-hmm. Sure. In terms of programs, we've been focused on training both preservation professionals, for example, historic district commissioners, and people going into historic preservation in terms of like cultural resources management, and also working with building trades people. And we've had hands-on workshops for doing that. We've had a construction trades council that provides training in the traditional building trades and crafts. We have a practical preservation workshops, laying the groundwork for successful traditional trades workshops that continue today. Those included things like 2-week window workshops that have now trained scores of participants, some of whom have started their own business. In 2012, we started our basic and advanced historic district commission training manuals. And by 2016, seeing the results of our involvement in Detroit's Jefferson-Chalmers neighborhood since 2012, we further grew our partnership with the Detroit Land Bank Authority and initiated Block Build as a preservation education program that teaches basic restoration skills and uses fairs to introduce residents to their local banks and city services. For that, we won recognition of the neighborhood by the National Trust as Michigan's first national treasure and completed its own rehabilitation and sale of a neighborhood home. And in 2018, we piloted the Living Trades Academy designed to create opportunities for underemployed and unemployed Detroiters to become traditional building tradespeople through a 9-week paid training program with major funding from the McGregor Foundation, the Americana Foundation, and Chemical Bank Foundation. Unfortunately, due to many other things, cuts in funding, reduced staff, most of these educational workshops have been on hold, but we are applying for grants to revive and expand the workshops, including a focus on workforce development for building trades and preservation professionals. Mm-hmm. Currently, we do have free monthly webinars on a variety of topics, ranging from the Vermilion Life Saving Station at Whitefish Point, moving historic buildings, and the mushroom houses in Charlevoix.
Wow, so much going on. Have you invited Mike Rowe to speak at your annual event?
No, but I think that would be great fun.
Yeah, it'd be great for all of the work that you're trying to do in the trades and all of those educational things.
And they are dirty jobs sometimes.
Oh, yeah, you bet. Absolutely. Wow, you're doing so much. That is great work. Now, this program is all about supporting historical, genealogical, preservation, and cultural societies across the United States, as you know. When I discovered your organization, I was really in awe of the work you're doing and the resources you have to offer the organizations across Michigan to make a lasting difference in preserving the past and educating the future. Can you explore specific resources and support that the Michigan Historic Preservation Network provides to Michigan historical societies in relation to preservation?
For example, if a historical society has a building or they are aware of a building that is in need of preservation action or protection, we can offer technical assistance in the form of site assessments. We can help them with preservation planning and workshops and training, such as those hands-on workshops for learning how to do maintenance, for example, that might be necessary. We have publications, include guides on preservation best practices, case studies of successful preservation projects, and technical manuals. And our annual conference is a great opportunity for historical societies where their members can network with other organizations and learn the latest trends and challenges in historic preservation. We don't offer direct funding and financial support to other organizations, but we do offer funding and financial support to preservation projects in the forms of our revolving loan programs and our easement programs and our tax credit programs. We also can assist with advocacy and policy support with our legislative advocacy right now. So our big push is the expanded state historic preservation tax credit, but also we have programs for community engagement. We are working on a sort of a how-to preservation toolkit with the State Historic Preservation Office that will give sort of flow charts and guidelines on, if you want to save a historic school, this is what you do first. And if you want to set up a local historic district, this is what you do first. That will make things a lot easier for people to sort of walk through that process.
That's fantastic.
And we are always and we are always willing to just call us and we'll offer what support we can. And sometimes we can only hold your hand, but sometimes that's what you need.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Good work. I kept reading all of the resources available on your website, and they're just great. There's guides and all kinds of consulting and just a lot of resources that help and make a real difference in people's knowledge of how to interact with these various agencies and get financial support and just, like you said, hold your hand a little bit and help.
I think one of our most popular resources is our Historic Resource Council directory. It's an advertiser-supported publication with preservation professionals, consulting organizations, banks, insurers, building trades professionals, specialized skilled artisans in stained glass restoration, plaster restoration, whatever you might need for working on your building. And that's downloadable from our website at mhpn.org.
Fantastic. Thank you. Can you discuss a couple of success stories or case studies where the MHPN has significantly impacted preservation efforts?
We have many projects all over the state where we have either provided loans in the form of pre-development loans, which pays for, say, architectural fees, design fees, abatement, other things necessary to get your project started before you even, start construction. It's all that front end stuff. And that is the most challenging and risky stage of any development project. Many projects wouldn't happen without that just because they don't know if a project will even, make money or be profitable or be economically viable until you get through all of that stuff and you have architectural drawings and then you can go bid out the construction work. We also have intervention loans, which are geared towards specific parts of a project that are preservation related. Say, restoring stained glass windows. We can give you an intervention loan to help do that specific part of a larger project. We also are direct investors in a number of projects where we become a partner and we are on the loan with the building owners, and that investment allows the project to move forward. Typically, it's in the form of what they call gap financing, where that, but for this money, project would not go forward. And those are projects that serve our mission of historic preservation. We've had projects in Detroit, like the Book Cadillac, the Edsel and Eleanor Ford residence in Indian Village. We've had projects in Grand Rapids, like the Willard Peacock building, the Flatiron building in Grand Rapids, and many throughout the state that we participated in. Preservation easement is the best way to ensure a project does not face demolition because we become an actual part owner of the building through a charitable donation. And that's a very good way of protecting a project, but also helping the owner reduce their tax burden.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And thank you for all the work you do. Now, I'd like to provide the contact information for the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. You can find them on their website, as Brenda mentioned, at www.mhpn.org. Their address is 313 East César E. Chavez Avenue, Lansing, Michigan 48906. You can phone them at 517-371-8080. And you can email them at info@mhpn.org. That all sound right?
Sounds great.
Fantastic. Can you tell us how a society can join the Preservation Network and what the benefits of joining are to them?
So we have individual memberships, and we also have organizational memberships. So individual memberships, those are available either as students or senior memberships or a basic membership. And we also have organizational memberships. And I believe that includes up to like 10 people within your organization under that organizational membership umbrella. And then you get access to our newsletter, you get discount registrations to our conference and other events. You can send us your organization's information. We will post, say, your event on our website and our social media. If you're having a fundraiser or you have workshops or webinars that you want to promote, we will put that up on our website and sort of help you reach an audience, various things like that. Obviously, you can take advantage of any of our incentive programs or, ask Brenda how I can help you. And so the Michigan Historic Preservation Network really aims to be a network to connect people. And by becoming a member, you have access to that network and you also become part of that network. And it just adds to the preservation community and the historic societies community and helps build connections between people and organizations.
Yeah, very cool. Now, Brenda, can you please highlight the Michigan Historic Preservation Network's financial assistance programs like the Pre-Development Loan Program and Intervention Loan Program?
So the Pre-Development Loan Program is what allows projects to get started. Before you can, do restoration work on a building, you need to have architectural drawings and you need to have engineering studies and, you need title searches and abatement and all of those costs. And those are very expensive upfront costs for a project that you don't know if it is even going to be able to get a loan, if it's even going to be profitable in the long run. And that is the riskiest time for any developer. We help developers with covering those costs through our loan program. For example, so the pre-development loan helps you get to a point where you can really start to see the project costs, and then you can combine that with your pro forma of revenue for the project, and then you can see whether the project's actually going to be financially feasible. Then you take all of that package to the bank, and then you really need to have that pre-development work done up front. The intervention loan program is specifically for repairs. It could be part of a larger restoration project. For example, restoring woodwork or wainscoting throughout a building, fixing a roof in order to prevent further deterioration of the interior of a building, kind of like urgent emergency repairs in that sense. So the loan could be for one project itself or part of an overall larger project. The intervention loan program is run through a city or nonprofit, and the goal is to stabilize properties that are threatened by one or more failures of major building systems.
Yeah, that's perfect. That helps so many people. You have a lot of people across the state that take advantage of that?
Yes. With the intervention loan program, we have to work very closely with communities and what they call certified local governments and other nonprofits to basically be a pass-through for these funds, and they end up administering the loan. We grant the loan to the civic organization or nonprofit organization.
Oh, very cool. Brenda, it's time for our first break for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages about becoming a member of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network.
Are you passionate about preserving Michigan's rich heritage and history? Do you want to be part of a community dedicated to saving the places that tell the story of Michigan's past? Then join the Michigan Historic Preservation Network today. For over 40 years, the Michigan Historic Preservation Network has been at the forefront of preserving our state's archaeological sites, historic sites, and landmarks. From the bustling streets of Detroit to the charming towns of the Upper Peninsula, they work tirelessly to protect the places that define Michigan's unique character. As a member of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, you'll join a dedicated group of archaeologists, architects, preservationists, historians, and community leaders committed to safeguarding Michigan's architectural treasures. You'll have access to exclusive member benefits, including invitations to special events and workshops, learn from experts and connect with fellow preservation enthusiasts, access to valuable resources, get guidance on grants, technical assistance, and preservation best practices, networking opportunities, build relationships with local and state preservation organizations and professionals, discounts on MHPN publications and merchandise, stay informed and showcase your support for preservation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a local business owner, or simply someone who loves Michigan, becoming a member of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network is a fantastic way to make a difference. Your support helps them advocate for preservation-friendly policies, provide crucial funding and resources, and protect the state's historic sites for future generations. Ready to join them? It's easy. Visit the website at www.mhpn.org to sign up and learn more about their programs and initiatives. Have questions? Give them a call at 517-371-8080 or drop them an email at info@mhpn.org. They're here to help and welcome you to the Michigan Preservation family. Don't miss your chance to be part of something special.
Join the Michigan Historic Preservation Network today and help them preserve the places that make Michigan extraordinary. Together, you can ensure that Michigan's history endures and its heritage thrives. Visit www.mhpn.org or contact them at 517-371-8080 or email info@mhpn.org. They can't wait to welcome you.
Step into the past with Preservation Oaks. Voyage with us every 2 weeks for another episode that brings history and your community alive. Join us on a journey with the finest guests from museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical and genealogical societies. We'll share the best information about these core societal organizations. You'll learn about the great work they do and why you can feel good volunteering and supporting them. Join us wherever you get your podcasts, and then follow, comment, like, and listen.
Humans. Proud explorers, risk-takers, savvy business people. Water-driven mills in days gone by. Consumption and other diseases taking people way too early. Robotic farming and nuclear rocket engines, as well as colonies on other planets today. And in all those thousands of years, humans keep making history in unique ways everywhere they live. Humans will be humans, which is exactly why we have museums, historical and genealogical societies. Designed to capture your interest and tell the story of humans in counties and cities across the United States, Preservation Oaks is there to educate our listeners about these vital cultural organizations. Listen to Preservation Oaks today at preservationoaks.podbean.com.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliff, and we're here today with Ms. Brenda Rigdon from the Michigan Historic Preservation Network located in Lansing. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back, Brenda.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. Hey, can you discuss how societies can best collaborate with the Michigan Historic Preservation Network so they can take advantage of all their member benefits?
I think to take full advantage of your membership, first make sure that you're getting our newsletter, and so that you can stay up to date on our various programs and workshops and webinars. Also, to become involved with us in volunteering to present workshops or webinars. We are always looking for people to be part of our monthly webinar program, and on a variety of topics. So that's great fun. Shohan Smith manages those for us and does a fantastic job. Then I think also when you have issues related to building or structural or cultural preservation, contact us and see what specific resources we have that might be available to you. And that may not necessarily be like a preservation incentive loan or something like that, but there may be resources like guidelines for setting up a historic district, or how to research a historic site and prepare a National Register nomination.
Okay, so let's say I'm a historic society. Do I get, and I become a member, do I get assigned someone there at your organization that I can trust and I can build a relationship with, or do I get someone different every time I call, or how does it work?
So I'm pretty much the one that handles all of what we call the field services calls. So people call me and I try to get back to them, within 24 hours if I can't answer right away, and we just chat. I like to just chat with people and have them tell me their story and see what we can work out.
Okay, so it's a small organization.
Yes, and we're slowly trying to build up our staff and services.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I wish you much luck at doing that, because I'll tell you, the services you have on your website and the services you offer are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brenda, you've mentioned a couple of events upcoming, your annual conference. Can you share any other upcoming events and opportunities for engagement?
So our next monthly webinar will be on September 19th, and that's Introduction to the Michigan Main Street Program. They are a program through the state, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, that promotes downtown revitalization. They talk about design, organization, promotion, and economic restructuring of historic downtowns. And they also talk about the 8 guiding principles of the Main Street programs, including being comprehensive, incremental, and emphasizing self-help and public-private partnerships. So if your historical society is in a community that is part of the Michigan Main Street program, you should definitely take a look at this webinar and to see how the Michigan Main Street programs might help your organization with their work.
Okay, fantastic. And I know you have a lot of different workshops coming and different things, educational things going on all the time. It's just amazing, the things. And you have a YouTube channel also where you put recordings of these things, and those are available on your website, right?
Yes, so on our website, it's www.mhpn.org. We have one tag, which is training and events, and that talks about our preservation conference, our preservation awards, our annual awards, our benefits, the Historic District Commission trainings, our workshops, which includes the webinars, and just a calendar. As I said, mostly our workshops have been kind of on hold for a while, but we're still doing the webinars and trying to build out the workshops again.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, then you've got the fall benefit coming up at the Adrian Armory.
Correct. Yeah, so on October 20th will be our fall benefit. It's our annual big fundraiser at the Adrian Armory in Adrian, Michigan here. It's a project I worked on as an architect, so I'm very pleased to be bringing it to Adrian. And it's basically a strolling dinner with beverages, wine and beer. We have a live and silent auction, awards, a walking tour of the Dennis Street Historic District here in Adrian. And we think it will be great fun. Our fall benefit, as well as our conference, go from city to city every year. Last year, our fall benefit was in Mexican Town in Detroit, and our conference was in Kalamazoo last year.
Wow, cool.
We like to travel around and showcase various preservation projects. The Armory is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year and has been converted over the past few years into a community event center after the National Guard left. And they currently have a really cool entrepreneurial program called Launch Lenaway, which I went through as a business owner. And they also have a makerspace kitchen, which various people come in and they make their food products in a licensed commercial kitchen, and then they're able to sell it not just at farmers markets, as they would be restricted to with the Michigan cottage food law, but into big grocery stores. And it's been a really fabulous launching pad for a lot of businesses.
Wow, that's very cool.
I'm looking forward to showing it off.
That is very cool. I hope a lot of people show up there at the Adrian Armory at 230 West, what is it, Maumee Street?
230 West Maumee Street, Adrian, Michigan.
Yeah, very cool. And you have to get tickets to this. Where do they get tickets?
So you can get tickets on our website.
Yep. Under events or something, right?
Under training and events, yes.
Training and events. Okay.
Training and events, fall benefit.
Okay, good. Yeah, that ought to be a lot of fun.
Yes. And then we have, after the dinner, we have an awards presentation. We have some Lifetime Achievement Awards coming up, and we have our live auction component. During all of that, we have a silent auction going on, so you can wander through and check your bid throughout the evening, and add $5 to it as you go along. We have really cool things like gift baskets and gift certificates to various museums and tickets to various events, and it's just a great fun.
Cool. And it's business informal.
Business informal, yep.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I hope that's a great success. You guys deserve it as hard as you work.
It's a nice party for us, to get together.
Now, Brenda, can you address the key challenges faced by the Michigan Historic Preservation Network and the various types of societies across Michigan in preservation efforts?
So there are two challenges that I focus on and that we discuss a lot in our meetings. First is the sense of complacency, because historic preservation seems to become just like a normal thing now. So when younger people especially see an old factory being turned into loft apartments, that's just like Tuesday. That's just a normal thing now. They don't understand the struggles that we as a society have gone through to make those projects possible. And that's a problem. They think, well, why should we care about historic preservation? Why should we care about saving these spaces? They don't recognize that all of the hard work that went into saving these spaces so they could be restored. The other challenge we have is funding and financial constraints. We used to have many more staff members. We used to have a much larger budget. We used to have field reps traveling all over the state to various communities, and now that's pretty much me. And so finding a source of sustainable funding, not just relying on donors and sponsorships, but building an endowment that gives us an operational fund that helps keeps us going in between the fall benefit and the conference, which those are the 2 times a year when the big money starts coming in. And then between, we kind of have a bit of a dip. We are blessed to have wonderful members who donate to the organization in a number of ways. We have wonderful sponsors for our fall benefit and our spring conference. Neither one of these events would happen without the sponsorship of various construction groups, professionals in the field. Anyone that you would find in our Historic Resource Council directory, those are all people that sponsor our events and make them happen. And we're just working on expanding that and expanding our membership and going back to trying to attract people both to the profession and to the Michigan Historic Preservation Network to become members and support our work.
Oh, very cool. The challenge is preserving, a building. And if you have an old building, one that was built, let's say, in the early 1900s, let's say, that may have to have, plumbing redone and wiring redone in order to bring it up to, 21st century code, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really cheaper than just tearing it down and building a new one?
No, usually not.
Okay.
That's why we have incentive programs, and that's why we have things like the state historic tax credit and the federal historic preservation tax credit to help offset some of that difference. And
Right.
but you're only looking at the construction cost of the building, right? You're not taking into consideration the cost of the demolition of the building and carting off all of that material to a landfill
Yeah.
and the embodied energy that it took to create that building and just the cultural meaning of a space that people are attached to. So those are things that some of them have dollar values and some of them don't. And it's hard sometimes for people to see those bigger picture things than just tear it down and you can build a brand new building.
Because some of that architecture that was inherent in that building that was built in the, let's say, the early 1900s, just doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And it's just beautiful. I mean, there's some buildings out there, and I'm telling you, I've seen them, they're just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And there's also the issue of context, too. So if you tear down an old building in the middle of a city block of old buildings, what does that do to that entire block, right?
Oh, right.
You've lost something. And often what happens is these buildings come down or are torn down because they decayed, because they've been allowed to decay. We call it demolition by neglect. And to a point where they simply can't be saved anymore. And that's a great tragedy right there.
Right.
I think another challenge we have that all organizations everywhere, traditional social groups have now is that we are competing with so many other opportunities for people's time and attention, right? Streaming services and the internet and people not living in the same small town they grew up in anymore, and just a whole variety of things. So you really have to be out there and find new ways of really marketing yourselves to new audiences. And I suspect that's the same with, historical societies, right? Who care, old stuff, who cares? So it's really a challenge to try to make it relevant.
Yeah, good point. Now, Brenda, can you share some notable publications produced by your organization?
I'm not sure how notable they are in the sense that, they're not big academic publications that have been footnoted and by other publications and researchers, but we do have publications on lead paint. We have publications on why it makes economic sense to do historic preservation, the economic development aspect of historic preservation, which we really try to emphasize for those dollar people who are focused on, the investment value of a project. We have a lead resource guide for homeowners of older and historic buildings. Any building older than 1975, it has lead paint in it. It probably has asbestos and other items as well that will need to be taken care of before the building can be properly rehabilitated. We have a community guide to repurposing vacant and underutilized historic buildings. It illustrates the endless possibilities historic properties can provide for the revitalization of Michigan communities. And we have a review of Michigan economic development incentives for historic preservation placemaking projects. And we have the review of Michigan economic development incentives for historic preservation placemaking projects. This is a resource to find financial support for preservation projects.
Ooh, that's all great. Those are very interesting topics, no doubt about that.
And we'd love to do more and continue updating what we've got.
Yeah. Do your members contribute to these publications, since many of your members are architects and very professional people?
Oh, absolutely. Our members are very generous with their time. Our board members, particularly, for example, when we were renovating our office in Lansing, the Comfort Station, we had architects and structural engineers on our team that helped produce the drawings to make that all happen. We also take advantage of their expertise in the publications I've cited and other ones. For example, when we needed legal advice supporting an injunction to prevent demolition of a historic school building, we had lawyers on our board who gave us the friends and family discount on their legal services to help produce documents needed.
Fantastic. Great job. Now, how is your organization funded, and what are your financial goals for the current year?
So we have annual memberships which is a big component, not just for the money they bring in, but that also helps us network and take advantage of their volunteer services and whatever else they may want to support. Those members also become donors. They leave us money in their wills, for example. And through the generosity of our members and donors, we've established several endowment funds for operations. We have 7 scholarship endowments, which has made it possible for us to give emerging professionals, young people, scholarships to our annual conference, for example. Most of our funding for our events comes through various sponsors, organizations, and we have various grant programs, specifically through the Michigan Arts and Cultural Council, that helps provide salaries and programmatic specific funds.
Wow, very cool. I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization once again. Their website is www.mhpn.org. Their mailing address is 313 East César E. Chávez Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48906. You can phone them at 517-371-8080, and their email is info@mhpn.org. And I hope you reach out, and I hope you become a member. Brenda, what features or resources can visitors explore on your organization's website? We've talked a lot about your website, a lot about some of the resources, but this is an opportunity for you to sort of explain about your website and what's there.
So our website has your typical About Us sections, membership sections, but we also have things like our resource section, which some of these publications we've been discussing. We have resources on laws and statutes if you want to learn more about the enabling legislation for historic preservation activities. What is a certified local government? We have information about the Main Street program, researching a listed property, how to have a property become listed on the National Register, for example. Archaeology reports. We have the back issues of our newsletter on there. We have our webinars are all posted on there. We have information on our advocacy program, specifically right now, our big push is the State Historic Preservation Tax Credit Expansion, House Bill 5430, and also some information on what we've worked on in the past. We have a list of our training and events. That includes the Fall Benefit, the conference, our Preservation Awards. We are still very active with our Historic District Commissioner trainings. People get on a Historic District Commission, they need to understand the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation because they're evaluating a project and whether it complies with those standards and giving their approval to a project in a historic district. And we have our webinars are listed on there, upcoming webinars, and our past workshops are listed on there. We're not currently enrolling people, but that gives you an idea of what we've been able to offer in the past and hope to move forward with.
Fantastic. Now, can somebody donate to the Michigan Historic Preservation Network on the website?
Yes, I was just going to mention that. Thank you. Yes, we have a button on top that says donate, and we run these through Square, and I believe you can do it through PayPal or your credit card, and there's a whole variety of donations. You can do an unrestricted donation. You can donate specifically to the annual conference or the Fall Benefit. We have some of our scholarship programs are on there. If you want to donate specifically to an endowed scholarship, those are on there. And it's just very helpful and very easy.
So guys, listeners, if you're interested in preserving Michigan, preserving buildings in Michigan, preserving history in Michigan, or if you're a historical society needing assistance with preservation and understanding how to do that, and you need some financial assistance or you need some coaching, whether you're an architect or a building professional, the Michigan Historic Preservation Network is a great organization, and they have a fantastic website with lots of resources. And I would strongly encourage you to join. It's a great organization.
And you can also become a member on our website, too. There's a tab for that.
Yep, fantastic. Now, Brenda, what current projects or needs does your organization have that the member community can get behind and support?
So, our top priority for this year is passing House Bill 5430. This expands the state historic tax credit for the renovation of historic properties. Representative Joey Andrews introduced House Bill 5430 on February 7th, 2024. There are some important changes to the existing bill. The bill increases the annual cap from $5 million to $100 million to better level the playing field among the actual sizes of income-producing projects. Applications are accepted in 4 categories rather than the current 2. We've added categories for commercial projects, large, medium, small, and a separate category for residential projects. The credit is increased from 25% to 30% for small income-producing projects and residential projects. That's huge. And the ways in which a building can establish eligibility for the historic tax credit are expanded. You no longer have to be in a historic district. If you are in a small community that does not have a historic district, or you're in an unincorporated township, but your building is over 50 years old and eligible for listing on the National Register, you can still apply for this tax credit. And the 25% income tax credit can be stacked with the 20% federal historic preservation tax credit if you are indeed on the National Register as a contributing project. These are great changes. We've been sort of battling with a $5 million cap for 3 years or so since the tax credit was reinstated, and it's going to make a huge difference. We have a demonstrated need of $100 million based on the fact that every time the application window opens, it's closed out within hours because all of the so many projects have applied, they've already exceeded the allowable funds. We're very, very excited, and it's going to make a lot of things happen that have been on hold for a while. And we are desperately hoping to get it out of committee and out for a vote before the end of the year because of the 2-year legislative cycle. If it doesn't, we have to start all over again next year. So we are really asking for a big push. On our website, you can go under the Advocacy tab, under State, and we have a handy little tool there to help you support this bill. We have a template that you can use to send to your state representative. We have a little lookup thing so you can see who your state representative is, and we have a fact sheet on all the improvements proposed by the House, sample letters, and we also have a sample council resolution. So we've been sending out emails to historic district commissions, to city governments, various governmental entities, historical societies, to asking for support with these resolutions.
Oh, good. So you don't really have to be a member to go to that advocacy tab and take advantage of sending in your wishes to the legislature.
Right. We are happy for anyone. And you can also see on that site the resolutions and letters of support that we've been receiving from all around Michigan.
Okay, fantastic. Wow, good. I'm glad you mentioned it. That's a very worthwhile. And I hope that's successful. Otherwise it has to be brought up again, right? Right.
And it's Janet Krieger, our immediate past president, and I have been meeting 3 or 4 times a week with various legislators from all over the state to advocate for this.
Well, fantastic. I'm sorry to interrupt, Brenda, but it's time for us to take a break for a few minutes.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after a brief message about supporting the Michigan Historic Preservation Network with your donations.
Imagine a Michigan where every historic building, landmark, and cultural treasure is protected for future generations. A place where the stories of our past continue to inspire and connect us. You can make this vision a reality with your support for the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. For over 4 decades, the Michigan Historic Preservation Network has been dedicated to preserving the architectural and historical heritage of this great state. From iconic landmarks to hidden gems in our communities, the Michigan Historic Preservation Network plays a crucial role in safeguarding the places that tell Michigan's story. But they need your help. Preservation is a journey that requires dedication, resources, and the support of passionate individuals like you. That's why they're reaching out today. Because together, you all can protect Michigan's history and ensure that your cultural heritage is preserved for generations to come. Your donation to the Michigan Historic Preservation Network directly supports preservation projects, fund critical restorations and maintenance of historic sites across Michigan. Advocacy efforts. Help them fight for preservation-friendly policies and protect Michigan's heritage from threats. Educational programs. Support workshops, training, and resources that empower communities to engage in preservation. Emergency assistance. Provide aid to sites in urgent need of preservation due to unforeseen events or deterioration. Every contribution, big or small, makes a difference. Your support enables them to continue the vital work and respond to the pressing needs of Michigan's historic sites. Making a donation is simple. Visit the website at www.mhpn.org to make a secure online gift. Prefer to send your donation by mail? You can send your check to 313 East César, East Chávez Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, for 8906. For any questions or to discuss how you can make a more significant impact, call them at 517-371-8080 or email info@mhpn.org. Your generosity helps preserve the places that define Michigan's character and enrich our lives. By supporting the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, you're investing in its shared history and ensuring that the state's cultural heritage remains a vibrant part of the future.
Join us in this historic mission. Donate today and be a part of preserving Michigan's legacy. Visit www.mhpn.org, call 517-371-8080, or email info@mhpn.org to contribute and learn more. Together, we can protect the stories of our past and build a lasting future for Michigan's historic. Your support matters. Help us make history. Preserve it today with the Michigan Historic Preservation Network.
History. The aroma is like rich farm soil or a familiar old book, the flavor bold and decadent, the touch divine. And the stories? Yes, the stories are luxury simply defined. Introducing Preservation Oaks, a program featuring museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical and genealogical societies across the United States. If you think you're familiar with the stories of history, you haven't experienced listening to Preservation Oaks, the program that invites you to experience each unique episode featuring professionals from these essential organizations. Select any episode from wherever you get your podcasts, then sit back and enjoy the luxury of history. No worries, because the enjoyment's on us.
This is Will Hawkins, Executive Director of Historic Tuscaloosa in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I had a lot of fun as a guest on Preservation Oaks.
This is Sandra Clam-Leininger from the Union County Genealogy Society, and I love listening to Preservation Oaks on Micro Stream Radio.
This is Linda Whiting, the director of the Fraser Farmstead Museum located in Milton Freewater, Oregon, and you're listening to Preservation Oaks.
Billy Brown, the smoothest, coolest guy in town. The chicks all seem to dig his jive. Hey, tell us, Bill, how can we arrive? It's easy, Jack. Any gal gets fed when you flash a smile by Pepsodent. You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent.
Pepsodent's new improved formula cleans teeth whiter than ever. Tastes brighter, too. New formula Pepsodent contains IMP. There's nothing else as good at getting teeth white.
You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. We're here today with Brenda Rigdon from the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. Wow, Brenda, this is a great organization that's helping so many organizations across Michigan to preserve history. Thank you again for being here and welcome back.
Thank Thank you, Sean. This has been a great opportunity for us, and we thank you for your attention.
You're more than welcome. Brenda, can you discuss the future direction of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network and how it plans to further support historical, genealogical, preservation, and cultural societies in their preservation efforts in the state of Michigan?
First, we continue to broaden our definition of preservation. When the preservation movement started, it was very much a famous white guy slept here sort of thing. It's not that anymore. We look at working class neighborhoods that were established in the 20s as being worthy of preservation because they are a cultural resource. We look at things like shipwrecks and life-saving stations and historic signs as being worthy of preservation. We continue to expand our work with the Michigan Tribal Cultural Resource Officers and with ethnic groups in Detroit and Grand Rapids and other cities that have come out of their tradition and that should be preserved. We really try to be very inclusive, both demographically and geographically. We try very hard to include board members from the UP that normally wouldn't be able to attend our monthly board meetings if we didn't have Zoom, for example, and just try to involve more perspectives in our organization. And I think that benefits historical societies as well. We are continuing to expand our workshops and training and offer more programs. I would like to offer more programs specifically designed for historical societies, for example, where we can be a resource for them for training, much like the building trades. Contractors can send their employees to us to be trained. We would definitely like to incorporate that with some of the historical society work. And we also would like to expand our direct financial involvement with preservation projects through our redevelopment loan programs, through our tax incentive monetization programs, and through our easement programs.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. In what ways does your organization uniquely contribute to the community, and why is its role so crucial?
Because we are a statewide organization and because we are focused on networking, we are able to collaborate with so many different organizations throughout the state with different goals, preservation societies, genealogical societies, cultural societies, and combine our resources to broaden our influence throughout the state.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right, here's kind of a reflection type thing that I've been asking guests, and it's totally off topic, but I'm doing a special episode on my 100th episode. So I've just been asking my guests, because they're professionals and you're a professional, as a history enthusiast, how do you envision the world evolving over the next 100 years? What's the world going to look like in 100 years?
Well, it's interesting because in 2124, buildings or other cultural resources constructed before 2074 are now going to be eligible for the National Register. So it's going to be very interesting to see how preservation is interpreted in 100 years. I also would hope that as we become more aware of the need to preserve cultural resources, we spend more effort in designing buildings that are being built today or for the next 100 years with sustainability in mind, designing buildings that are flexible and can be adapted to a multitude of uses, the way we are now turning old historic schools or factories into apartments, for example. If that can be designed in from the beginning, even better. And if we can refocus on using sustainable materials, both from an environmental standpoint and a structural longevity standpoint, that would assist in being able to maintain these older structures and reduce the expense of demolition and replacement and the entire cycle of continuously replacing things. And I think in the long run, that's good for the planet and good for the culture as well. I think in 100 years, we're going to have kind of a different attitude about our environment and about our society and our place as humans in both. I think we're just beginning to see that over the past 20, 30 years with the rise of climate activism. As an architect and a preservationist, I would hope that in 100 years, we've become more aware of the value of our built environment and the impact of the built environment on the natural environment, and with that we've found ways to integrate the two better than we perhaps do now. I think we're going to have to learn to, I don't figure out how to say this. I don't think every building ever built needs to be preserved. I understand we need to have new buildings, and that is how cities and communities evolve. I hope that in 100 years we're still doing what we are doing in the sense of identifying important buildings for preservation and saving them, but also doing a better job of explaining to people why that's necessary, while also understanding that sometimes historic preservation has been used to prevent progress, in the sense that it's a favorite tool of NIMBYs, right? Not in my backyarders, that use historic preservation to say, oh, nothing can ever change here ever. And I don't believe that. I think there is a way to incorporate new development sensitively with the properties that we do want to maintain and the cultural resources that we do maintain. And there's a whole urban planning movement working on that, and they're all much smarter than I am. But those are some of the things I'd like to see in 100 years.
Fantastic answer. Thank you very much for that. Is there any additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
So this is for the preservation community and historical societies and just everyday folks. Preservation isn't a top-down activity. This is something you can get involved in your community. You don't need a big fancy ordinance or a big fancy organization. Just look around you. I'm always getting calls from people, how can we save this building? Like, well, if you'd come to me a year ago, I could help you, but now the bulldozer's at the door. I can't help you. So come to me sooner. Look around you. Look at that historic school that's been sitting empty for 20 years or 30 years, but still has good bones, as we say, and work to preserve it now. Work to ensure it's not going to be demoed in the middle of the night, or that you aren't aware of coming plans for it. Attend your city council meetings. Organize people in your community to save a building. We have the resources to help you do that. And there are even things like Incremental Development Alliance, which helps people become small-scale developers. So if you or a group of your friends want to get together and restore a historic building in your town to prevent it from demolition, they have the tools to help you do that. So I think don't wait, be proactive, figure out what's important to you and to your lifestyle and the type of community that you want to live in, and then act on it to the best of your ability. If that only means that, you can send us a check, we're happy to do that because, we need that too. If it means you can be more proactive by buying and restoring a historic house, that's awesome too. And we will try to help you however we can.
Great. Thank you very much. Now, if a building isn't derelict, but you recognize the historical significance of the building, it's being used currently as whatever it's being used for, is it still time to come to you and start talking about preserving it, or does it have to be vacant?
Oh, I would, definitely. If a building is being used, that's fabulous because the owner has incentives to keep it going and keep it maintained, and all of our preservation incentives programs tie into that. Yeah, don't wait for it to get derelict. That's an even better point. Thank you.
Okay, because you mentioned not all buildings meet the criteria, whatever the criteria is, to be preserved or saved. They have to have some significance historically or architecturally or something, right?
Right. So if you go back to the National Register of Historic Landmarks criteria, first, the building has to be over 50 years old, and that's from today. So buildings that were built 50 years old are now eligible. But they also have to have importance because of the architect, because of the design of the building, because it was associated with a famous person or event, or because of social or cultural context. When I was talking about workmen's cottages, from the 20s, the original tiny houses, right? Those little neighborhoods are an important cultural resource.
Right.
That we understand how our cities evolved and how lifestyles of people evolved. So it doesn't have to be the big fancy McMansion, or it doesn't have to be the big fancy house built by a lumber baron. It can be something modest, but it's also important to understanding the history of your area.
So if you're unsure about whether this building meets the criteria, they can contact you and talk about it.
Sure.
Okay, got it. All right. From an architectural perspective, if buildings were constructed to be easy to replace HVAC and electric and plumbing, those three systems, I think, where they had conduits where you could easily rip and replace plumbing and electrical and upgrade those three things, then that would make it much cheaper to restore old buildings, right?
Right. One of the biggest controversies right now is office space converted to residential space. And it's great in concept, but very few office buildings, modern office blocks, can be converted to residential because the plumbing is all in one corner where all the restrooms were at. And running that and HVAC and electrical converting that into individual apartments is outrageously expensive. And also, there's a lot of big space in the middle that you couldn't use for housing because there are no windows, for example.
All right.
So if you look at, there's a classic building at MIT, I forgot what building it's called, sorry, which building is, that Stuart Brand wrote about, where it's basically this big space, and it has survived so long because whoever gets assigned to that building next just goes in and moves everything around, and the partitions and the shell stays the same, and they just figure out what they need to do to get services to where they need to go, and they do their project, and then the next folks come along and they reconvert it to their needs. So there are architectural concepts like that make it easier to renovate later, and that's both in the construction and the choice of materials. If you think about schools and factories, for example, schools in particular are a great example because the classrooms are about the size of a one-bedroom apartment. And they also tend to have shallow floor plates and windows on both sides. So that makes it very easy to have a line of apartments on each side of the corridor, just as the classrooms were arranged. So, designing things like that with future adaptability in mind is a really good practice.
Yeah, good point. How do you believe your members, volunteers, and the community perceive the value and benefits your organization provides?
Based on the long-term members that we've had, the volunteers that we have, and the incredible generosity of our donors and our corporate sponsors, I think they think pretty highly of our organization. Chatting with them, we're always looking for ways to improve. And the things we keep coming back to is expanding our workshops, expanding our services. And they've all been very supportive with that.
Okay, fantastic. I suppose you get a lot of member feedback. Well, I hope you get a lot of member feedback, especially when you help people the way you do. And hopefully it's all very positive.
It's always nice when we get a shout out from another organization or a board member, for example, just like last week, forwarded an email from another organization saying, wow, MHPN, it's just awesome. They just do such great work. It's really nice to get that kind of feedback. And our members are not shy. They will tell us when we think we're messing up.
Brenda, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. I've learned a lot, had a great time. I'm really glad to meet you, learn about this organization. It is just a fantastic resource for Michigan, all of the historical societies and the people that want to preserve and maintain things that are truly, history. And it's been inspiring to know how much your organization does for all of these folks and how much you have to offer, and I hope they all join as members. I appreciate you, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Sean, and I have had a really lovely time today, and thank you for helping me look at the Michigan Historic Preservation Network as being part of the historical societies and museums that are your target audience, and thinking about ways that we can serve them better. And remember, www.mhpn.org. Go to our website. Our email is on there to contact us with questions, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Ms. Brenda Rigdon. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. All right, welcome back. As we come to the close of this episode of Preservation Oaks, I'd like to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to today's guest, Ms. Brenda Rigdon, Executive Director of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, MHPN, based in Lansing, Michigan. Brenda's dedication, intelligence, and expertise shine through in every aspect of her work, and we're incredibly fortunate to have had her on the show today. Through her knowledge and leadership, the MHPN continues to be a vital resource for historical, genealogical, and cultural societies across Michigan, helping them preserve the state's invaluable heritage. Throughout this episode, Brenda provided us with a comprehensive overview of the Michigan Historical Preservation Network's mission, detailing the importance of preserving Michigan's rich history for future generations. We learned about the history and goals of the MHPN, understanding how it came to be and where it's headed. Brenda also shared insights into the network's current key initiatives, which are driving real change in preservation efforts statewide. One of the key takeaways from today's discussion was the vast array of resources and support the MHPN provides to Michigan's historical societies. Whether it's through financial assistance programs or expert guidance, the MHPN plays a crucial role in ensuring that societies have the tools they need to succeed in their preservation missions. We also heard success stories, tangible examples of how MHPN has made a difference, helping to restore and preserve historic sites and buildings that are essential to our collective memory. Brenda took the time to explain how societies can collaborate with the MHPN, offering helpful guidelines on maximizing membership benefits. From networking opportunities to financial support, becoming a part of the MHPN opens doors to a wide range of resources that can elevate the preservation efforts of any society. In addition to current initiatives, Brenda also highlighted upcoming events and opportunities for engagement that societies and individuals can look forward to, whether it's workshops, conferences, or community events aimed at expanding preservation knowledge and collaboration. It was particularly enlightening to hear Brenda address some of the key challenges faced by both MHPN and historical societies across Michigan. Preservation is not without its difficulties, but by networking and working together and leveraging the resources and expertise of the MHPN, Michigan preservationists can tackle these challenges head-on. Perhaps most exciting is the future direction of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. Brenda shared with us how the organization plans to further support not only historical and genealogical societies, but also broader cultural preservation efforts across the state. As Michigan continues to grow and evolve, the MHPN is committed to ensuring that history is preserved and celebrated for generations to come. With everything we've discussed, it's clear that today's conversation is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, and I encourage every listener to dive deeper into the wealth of information and resources available through the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. Their website is a treasure trove of valuable content designed to help societies across the state fulfill their preservation missions. Once again, I'd like to encourage historical, genealogical, and cultural societies across Michigan to take a closer look at what the MHPN has to offer. Becoming a member not only grants access to incredible resources, but also makes your organization a part of a broader network of preservationists committed to safeguarding Michigan's history. Membership is affordable at just $90, and the benefits far outweigh the cost. By joining, you're supporting an organization that actively advocates for preservation policies and legislation at all levels of government, ensuring that societies have the tools they need to succeed in tax, financial, and preservation efforts. Before we close, let me provide you with the contact information for the Michigan Historic Preservation Network one last time. Their website is www.mhpn.org. Their mailing address is 313 East César E. Chávez Avenue, Lansing, Michigan 48906. You can phone them at 517-371-8080, and you can send them an email at info@mhpn.org. I hope today's episode has sparked some inspiration for those of you involved in preservation work or who care deeply about Michigan's history. The work being done by the Michigan Historic Preservation Network is vital, and it's up to everyone to help support their efforts in any way we can. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the MHPN via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in Michigan and you're part of an organization who has a role in building, construction trades, architecture, archaeology, history, museum, or preservation of any kind for your district, town, village, city, or your home, and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting this organization. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the organization is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and Michigan. The Michigan Historic Preservation Network is truly one of our preservation oaks. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, 99 Instrumentals, Light Beats, Alan Gray, Alexa Vesa, Coma Studio, S Audio, 8-Ball Audio, and Scott Holmes. MicroStream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit us at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by MicroStream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of MicroStream Radio. Thanks to everybody for listening. Stay curious and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. Please keep preserving and protecting the stories that make us who we are. This is Sean Radcliffe. We'll see you all next time on Preservation Oaks, and until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.